very much. I'm very glad to be here.
I think you're going to need to hold the...
Yeah, I need to. I'm told, so I want to be going. Yeah, and that's nice. I feel myself as a singer, so 1, 2, 3. Go ahead. Actually, I was going straight forward to my talk today until Sultan has raised the question about where did the Democrats go. So I was wondering, am I one of them or not? So that was the main question. And that reminded me of, these reels on social media, a very clever one, a soundbite from Egypt. A presenter approached a handsome Egyptian teenager. He asked him, what do you think, or do you know democracy? And he answers with all this sense of humor Egyptian has, saying, I've heard of it, and I heard it's sweet, but never tasted. So the question now here, it was very metaphorically, a very strong soundbite, I would say, but I won't be talking about democracy as a normative agent, as something sweet and a candy. Actually, I'll be talking about democracy as a mechanism, and that will lead me. When I was invited here, I was just thinking of when I was a part of discussions post 9/11 about terrorism and extremism and all this stuff. I remember an American diplomat telling me at that time, if Osama bin Laden, if there was a parliament in Saudi Arabia, Osama bin Laden would be a Hawaj MP. And that was really, this idea just have been a food of thought for me for many years, for 25 years. And when I was invited to this esteemed conference, I was thinking, let me reassess this idea, let me rethink of it. And I remember I wrote a piece called Democracy and Terrorism. And I was thinking that I might have written this post-Arab Spring for obvious reasons, that, as Shadi put it, so all the hopes that there will be a democracy. But it turned out I've been written it in 2008, actually. That was on the shadow of the discussions on war and terror and Bush administration, where Mr. Obama was coming to power. So at that time, that led me to think of this. Let me reassess this thing, what the diplomat told me, what I have written, and we are talking a span of 25 years now. So where we are standing, and therefore I'm saying, am I those who disappeared at that time? I'm not sure. So I will be assessing this with you together and to see. What I have argued in 2008 was both democracy and terrorism are mechanisms for channel the political conflict. Whether we like it or not, of course we don't like it. Terrorism in a sense, but it's a mechanism. It's a part of the political struggle in a way or another. However, does democracy prevent extremism, as today's question? That will be, I will be bringing in my speech today. So, if that we are talking about mechanism, my argument was, if the conflict goes through ballots, it does not, it goes through bullets. So that was the point at that time where I'm looking to this. And at that time I had some data. And the data that we've noticed that terrorism in democratic countries were higher than authoritarian ones. So we find at that time, free countries, 35% they have terrorism incidents. Partly free were 47. And this is, by the way, an anthropological and sociological point, which I urge scholars to search. They will find that the incompleted urban places, they are more generating for extremist in a sense, mainly in the Middle East. And there are other notes. And at that time, we talked about the Algeria example. Algeria have been won in elections and ballots. They've been deprived this win. Then there was the Algerian civil war, or al-Ashriya Damiya, the bloody decade in a sense. But before and now, that was my argument at that time in this piece. But before we go to more depth for what we see today, today's speak is about terrorism and extremism. Terrorism is a mechanism, we said, but extremism is an ideology. Is an ideology. Could it thrive in a democratic place? Would it be possible to have it in a sense as in a democratic place? 6th of January in the US will show you, yes, it could. India today, it shows you, yes, you could. UK, we have such discussions about reform and where are the right wing are just infiltrating the systems. So yes, that's to simplify it, yeah. Although that's not a straight answer for that extremism, because democracy is still there to channel the conflict between all these different ideas and ideologies. But to reframe what I've reached to, democracy may prevent terrorism in some conditions, but it demonstrably does not prevent extremism. It can sometimes even produce it. So therefore, if you have a stronger mechanisms in a democratic system, so you can channel these conflicts, which leads eventually to rule of law. From 2008 until today, Arab Spring happened. Then we could see a huge change that people were demanding exactly for the channel. What I called for in 2008 was the main headline in the Arab Spring. So people were looking for a channel to facilitate their political conflicts, in a sense, which is democracy. The results, unfortunately, were not as like in Egypt. You've seen some people call it coup, others that. Anyway, the ballots haven't been tried in a sense. Tunisia, it's just one-man show as just returned. And it's not really, it's enriched in our culture. So I've heard you, Mr. Masmoudi, you're talking about that Tunisia where people are Democrats. But no, we are just from 2011 until today, it's not too long in the historical context. So we need to think of the mechanisms, how we create the mechanisms more than creating the ideology. It's not the sweetness, it's not the candy, the Egyptian teenager talking about it. It's a mechanism. That's maybe there where I was hidden, Sultan. So that's how I reached this. So, and also we have another example from Turkey, which Turkey was an Islamist-leaning, deprived group, has reached the power for many years. However, using democratic tools, they're consolidating power in this certain party, and we are seeing a one-man show in a sense. However, the democratic mechanism is still there, but it's under question now today. So that's the thing, is how I'm looking for these cases. But since 2008 until today, what I got right and what I missed. Got right, exclusion produces violence. That's correct, we've seen that. The relationship between democracy and terrorism is inverse but conditional, not automatic. So again, the institutions are. Institutional quality matters more than label democracy. It's not a sweet candy. It should be worked for. What I missed, in this sense, the difference between democracy as a process and democracy as a culture is very important. So that there's a first stage is how you spread the culture so people can observe that. Then you build the institutions. That's from all this. And my framework was too focused on the Middle East. But now, as I said, they have US, we have India, we have UK, these all rich democracies. But we're seeing that my framework has been shaken in a very clear way. Most importantly, I theorized about terrorism, and the bigger challenge now, it's extremism actually, as an ideology, not as a mechanism, as we used to see it post 9/11. Although terrorism, political violence still exists, of course, but now it's changed that the ideology is spreading itself. Close. Back in 2001, 2002, the American diplomat told me that Bin Laden again would have been, if there was a parliament in Saudi Arabia, that it would be a right-wing MP. However, if there is no institutions, if there is no mechanisms inside democracy itself and protected by law and others, that means it won't be a solution to extremism and terrorism. Thank you very much.